Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Ward and I am going to read you Chapter 6 of Sparrowhawk Red. So if you guys remember, Ricky was in Mexico. He just cut all of his hair off to pretend like he's a ratero so that he can break into this ranch and steal the plane back. Pretty crazy. So Chapter 6. After dropping Ricky off at school, Benito drove slowly. Thoughts of his son hung over him like a dark cloud. Why couldn't it be like old times? For years, he had called Ricky his wingman, his most trusted buddy, and his son had announced proudly to any visitors, "I'm Papa's wingman." But since his mother's death, Ricky had drawn inward, guarded his feelings. He rebuffed any mention of wingman. Ricky had never been able to forget about his mother, not that Benito himself had, but he had kept secret that he believed she was murdered. Death could destroy more than one person if you let it. Often he overheard Ricky still talking to his mother as if she existed. Her death had created a stubborn wall between him and his son. If only Ricky had not overheard the conversation with the DEA agents at the ranch house. No death was easy to deal with, but the murder of a mother? Benito headed across town to pick up a new wheel bearing for the biplane. The baby Great Lakes needed work if they were going to go flying this afternoon. Flying seemed to be the only thing that helped either of them forget the past, the only thing that helped them get along. Today, Ricky had insisted he didn't want to go flying. Benito was sure, though, that his son would change his mind after seeing the biplane standing ready. He always did. Flying the baby was Ricky's greatest passion, his escape. A hard white sun climbed high in the sky. Benito picked up mail at the mailbox, then pulled into the yard and headed for the house. Inside, the red light flashed on his phone answering machine. He rewound the tape. Several messages played while he sorted through the mail. Beep. Yeah, Benito, this is Ed. Do you mind if I borrow your post shovel tomorrow? I'll be over in the morning. Thanks. Beep. Mr. Diaz, this is Fixed Rate Auto. I have your generator rebuilt. It's ready to pick up whenever you're in town. Any questions, call me. Have a nice day. Benito slapped the counter. He could have picked that generator up this morning if he'd known. Beep. Hello, this is the attendance office at Alamo Junior High School. Your son Ricky was reported absent today. It would help our office if you would notify us when your child is going to be absent. We do hope he's not ill. Please send a note with him when he returns. Benito stared with surprise at the answering machine. Absent from classes? What in blazes? It couldn't be. She must be wrong. Quickly, he dialed the school. No, they insisted. Ricky Diaz had not shown up for classes. Benito hung up. His thoughts were racing. If Ricky played hooky regularly, this might be expected. But never once had he pulled a stunt like skipping school. There was something defiant and foreboding about it. Something terribly wrong. Instinctively, he ran to Ricky's room. Nothing appeared out of place. If his son had run away, surely there would be a note. Finding out his mother was murdered had to have been a terrible shock for Ricky. He was probably walking alone somewhere, working things out. But Benito tried to recall what Ricky had said or done that might lend a clue. His son had few friends or places he could go. He was not one to go somewhere and just hang out. Benito shook his head. Nothing made sense. Hopefully Ricky hadn't done anything foolish. The two of them were alike, and that worried Benito the most. His own bum foot was a prime example. Benito still walked with a slight limp on account of losing his temper. Years before, a beady-eyed pack rat had kept finding its way into the house, avoiding any poison or trap. The rat started crawling up on the bed at night. Ugh. It would cross the wooden frame while making its rounds. Angry, Benito left a dim nightlight glowing. When he heard the telltale scratching on the frame, he reached over and picked up his .38 revolver off the nightstand. Dimly, the big rodent became visible as it crossed the footrail. Benito rested the revolver on his lap, aimed carefully, and then fired. Besides blowing the rat into rat heaven, he also succeeded in shooting off his own little toe. Oh my gosh. Ricky had only been told it was a ranching accident. Benito glanced helplessly around his son's room. Where was the boy? He reached for the phone to call the police and then stopped. He always lectured Ricky to think before reacting foolishly. Now he needed to do the same. No kid would want to go to school after discovering his mother had been murdered. Ricky was a thinker, and he didn't like showing his feelings. It made sense that he would skip school and go somewhere to be alone. Benito had to give his son that breathing space. Time would heal the wound. Surely Ricky would come home this afternoon on the school bus. Deliberately, Benito set to work on chores around the ranch. As he worked, the notion of being a quitter crowded his thoughts. He hadn't quite quit the DEA, he retired. And why not? Even before the accident, he had considered retirement. He had enough years in to draw a pension. Ricky's accusation that he was a quitter was absurd. Going after the Leon drug cartel was suicide. They were a ruthless organization. They needed to be stopped, but now it was somebody else's job. Benito didn't want Ricky to lose his father, too. Again and again, Benito reasoned through his actions, but he could not clear from his head the ringing of Ricky's words, "You're a quitter." It made Benito more and more angry. Didn't Ricky see nothing would bring back the dead? Mid-afternoon found Benito in the hangar, checking his watch and glancing nervously out the drive. His anger still brewed as he paced back and forth beside the shiny biplane. Finally, the school bus shimmered into view, stirring up dust in the heat waves. It appeared to slow, and Benito held his breath. But then the gears shifted, and the yellow bus lumbered on past. Panic stunned Benito. Was it possible that the Drug Enforcement Agency had something to do with this? No, he decided. He had differences with them, but they were not a bad outfit. In fact, Frank Page and the rest were good men, except for the whiner, Dexter Crum, the one who had shot his mouth off at the house. Surely the DA would never dare use Ricky to force his will. Benito hoped desperately that he was right. What was it Ricky had said when they argued here by the hangar yesterday? First, he had called Benito a quitter for not stealing the airplane, but then he said something else. He said he wasn't a quitter himself. What that meant? Was it just a bluster? How much had Ricky heard? Had he overheard where the Leon drug cartel kept the Skyhawk? It was possible. He seemed to have heard everything else. Benito did not like the fearful suspicion shadowing his thoughts. There had to be some other explanation. Running toward the house, Benito sifted other possibilities through his mind. He had already wasted most of the day at home instead of searching. It bothered him how Ricky had implied that stealing the airplane would take care of his mother's death. How had Ricky put it? If you don't take care of a wound, it got infected? Benito tried not to be angry. That's how boys thought. Back in Ricky's room, Benito rummaged through every drawer. Something might give him a clue. Next, he turned to the closet. Inside the bifold door sat Ricky's neatly stacked gym clothes and his good gym sneakers. Benito bent and picked up the sneakers. If Ricky's clothes were here, then what was in the bag he took to school? It had been full. He tried to put himself in Ricky's place. What would he do? The answer made him swallow. He'd want desperately to get back at those responsible. That had been Benito's reaction 3 years ago, but he didn't dare do anything for fear they would hurt Ricky. Now a hollow, sick feeling churned in the pit of his gut. If Ricky thought he could go get the plane, he would have needed money for bus fares. Benito rushed to the hallway and opened the storage closet where he kept the stash of Mexican pesos. Quickly he pulled down the old shoebox and flipped up the cover. Empty. "Oh, mijito," he muttered. Then he blessed himself. Madre de Cristo, Madre de Dios. His son had no idea who he was dealing with. Drug smugglers weren't members of the human race. Their greed made them brutal and vicious. Making matters worse, if Ricky had gone after the plane, this would have to be handled outside of regular channels. A normal runway could be searched for by the police. Runaway could be searched for by the police. They would send out an all-points bulletin, but the police had little authority across the border. Considering the presidential summit, the confidential signature radar, and the DEA's efforts to steal a plane on foreign soil, local authorities might blunder in and get Ricky killed. No, the DEA was responsible. If Ricky had gone to Mexico, then the DEA would get him out or else. Benito picked up the phone and dialed. It took several minutes for a secretary to connect him with Frank Page, his old boss. Frank listened patiently, but made it clear that he doubted Ricky was in fact after the plane. Benito couldn't blame the man. He didn't roll Ricky's spunk. And Frank probably feared the horrible implications. "Stay near your phone," Frank Page said. "I'll call you after I check this out." "Yeah, check it out. Better than you did my wife's accident," Benito snapped angrily. "Remember, this time you're next on the block." He slammed down the phone. Immediately, he felt ashamed for letting his anger flare. He waited 15 minutes later. Frank called him back. "Benito," he asked, "can you come in immediately for a priority meeting?" "On my way." "Oh, one more thing. Bring several pictures of Ricky." Done. Benito hung up. In record time, he swerved the pickup out of the drive and headed toward town. When he arrived at the sprawling brick DEA complex, Frank Page greeted him. All else aside, the man was a good director, well-intentioned, although a little too much by the book. The joke going around the agency when Benito worked there was that Frank Page got dressed each morning with the help of an operations manual. Listening to him now, Benito realized nothing had changed. "Come in," Frank said, holding open the door to the conference room. "I hope we can resolve this matter." Benito held out Ricky's pictures. "Resolve this matter?" he said. "Is that what you call finding a missing boy?" He wanted to shake the man and tell him that Ricky wasn't simply a matter that needed resolving. He was a real live child, a son, in more danger than anyone imagined. Ignoring Benito's outburst, Frank Page glanced at the pictures. Also in the room sat two agents, Dexter Crum and Buck Winslow, the same ones who had visited the ranch with Frank. Benito liked Buck. The tall, quiet Montanan was a hard worker, and he knew when not to talk. Dexter Crum was a whole different story. He would get into a 100-mile-per-hour chase to issue a parking ticket. He was a bald, tired-looking man. Both men had been regular agents when Benito worked the agency. Now they worked Special Affairs Division. It explained how Dexter had gotten so cocky, badge-heavy, they called it in the agency. Someday it would get him into trouble. "Benito," Frank Page started in. "Have a seat. Based on what you told me over the phone and with what's at stake, I called the State Department. I let them know about Ricky. Needless to say, they're nervous as chickens in a snake pit." Dexter Crum spoke up, looking directly at Benito. "I think you're dreaming, blowing this whole thing out of shape. Your kid is probably down playing video games at the mall. A boy his age would hardly care about stealing an airplane. He didn't dare go after it unless he's dumber than we think. And suppose he did. He'd never get a mile of the Skyhawk. Can he even fly that kind of plane?" The man's tone of voice irritated Benito. He met the agent's dour stare. "Dexter," he said thickly, "Ricky could fly a Skyhawk upside down under your chin. I don't know about your kid, but mine has learned to do more than play video games. Yesterday, Ricky tried his first solo loop in our baby Great Lakes biplane." Dexter Crum turned red. "Your boy is violating the law flying solo at his age. You think that just because—" "Easy now," Frank Page interrupted. "It doesn't matter if Ricky could actually steal the plane. I think we all agree that would be quite impossible. But if he were to get caught trying, he could expose our involvement, and that would leave the president with egg on his face. We can't chance that." Frank Page was probably right about not being able to steal the plane, Benito thought, but to dismiss his son so lightly irked him. Ricky had his faults. He was hot-headed, stubborn, and prone to shortcuts. Not so very unlike his father, Benito admitted. But Ricky also had more nerve and gravel in his craw than these men imagined. His shy nature covered up a whole lot. "I want you both on this full time," Frank Page said, handing a picture of Ricky to each agent. "Don't come up for air until Ricky Diaz is found. Understood?" Buck Winslow nodded obediently. Dexter Crum grumbled his agreement. "Benito, I know this is your son," Frank Page continued, "but I'm going to ask that you sit this one out. This is a DEA operation, and I'm playing it by the book. We'll do everything possible to find Ricky, and I'll keep you informed of our progress, okay?" Benito nodded. He knew the game. It had been his life for more years than he cared to admit. He also knew that his nod meant little. If there was something he thought would have helped find Ricky, all the badges in Arizona wouldn't keep him home. "One more thing. Because the State Department is involved and because of the sensitive nature, I want this whole thing kept under wraps. We're dealing with a small boy who is a flyer, so I'm code-naming this operation Sparrow Hawk. I can't stress enough the sensitive nature of this matter. Any communication or reference to the operation will be under that code name. Understood?" Dexter shifted his massive bulk in the chair and let out a snort of disdain. "Go ahead and check out his friends' police reports and local hangouts," Frank added. "But to be safe, we must initially operate on the assumption that Ricky is already in Mexico and attempting to acquire the plane. So effective immediately, gentlemen. Operation Sparrowhawk is alert level green. Now, in the long chance that young Ricky makes it into the drug compound, we will upgrade that alert level orange. At that point, I'm afraid the State Department will have to get directly involved." "What if he gets the plane in the air?" Benito asked. Frank Page started picking up his papers as if the meeting were concluded. "Oh, I don't think we ever have to worry about this going code red." So already I'm getting some foreshadowing because we know the title of the book is Sparrow Hawk Red. So I don't know, you guys might have some predictions about what you think will happen. I'll see you for chapter 7.